Vishnave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sa Padantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamischa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamischa Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasyat Desatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratishe Namaha. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं यत्कृपातमं श्री गुरु दीनतारिणे विष्णुपदं हरे कृष्ण। First of all, I like to seek blessings of all the devotees. So I can speak on the chapter of fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, trying to completely summarize this chapter. So before we start our chapter, it's like always very wonderful to just recollect what beautiful days we are going through. You know, um, yesterday was a very beautiful day. We had three acharyas, appearance day and disappearance day. Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's very wonderful appearance days were there. So it was disappearance day of all of these acharyas. Sorry. So such a wonderful day, to remember and recollect. Just by coming in touch with the stories of these great acharyas, one gets the mood of how much love and sacrifice these acharyas had towards Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how much they had sacrificed their life to attain the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has written completely the synopsis of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Raghunathas Goswami has lived with the teachings of whatever Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught. Bhalo na khaibo. He lived his life with such great simplicity, eating very simple food, living with a simple lifestyle, and always being surrounded with devotees, in spite of being coming from a very rich background. So we have such great acharyas coming in our lineage, and just by knowing about them, recollecting about them on these auspicious days, one's life becomes more and more sublime, as well as one can remember how much Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given mercy to all the devotees. So it's always great on this Acharya's appearance and disappearance days that we should go and you know read about them, hear about them, and make our life more and more blissful by getting the mercy of these acharyas on these days. Yesterday was a very wonderful day, so I was just thinking yesterday, contemplating a lot on these three acharyas, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. How much he had sacrificed. How much he followed the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was asked to stay back in South India, at Sri Rangam to serve his parents. He served his parents and then came back and then served Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, cooking for him, singing, Srimad Bhagavatam and Kirtans for him. So, such wonderful way he had led his life. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Dasa Goswami led a very wonderful life, coming at the end to Govardhan, residing at Radhakund, and then he's getting the gift from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is able to remember him and sending a Gunja Mala and Govardhan Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami. And it's like such a great reciprocation. And he was reciting the complete the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and hearing his pastimes. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, you know, recollects everything and writes everything in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was reciting at the steps of uh, Giraj Govardhan, sitting at the sitting there and then reciting the glorious pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he was witnessing everything when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in Jagannath Puri. So we have such great acharyas in our lives, in our lineage, in our parampara. So we should be very proud and we should be diving more and more deeper in this aspect of going deeper in our bhakti and recognizing the mercy, how much it is there, which has been provided by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to all these great devotees. And then we can also get the mercy when we dive deeper in their lives, try to inculcate some of the qualities of these great acharyas. So this was my thought yesterday, and then few days back was Dasara and such a wonderful appearance of Madhvacharya. It was like such a wonderful occasion. We are like bounded with mercy when we go through these days, contemplating on such great acharyas and such great occasions which come in our lives. So we should dive deeper in this, in the consciousness, and go more and more deeper in understanding of our um, principles and understanding of the principles of what have been taught by great personalities like Lord Ram and other great personalities. So coming and other thing which is very wonderful, which is coming up next, is within couple of days is starting of the Kartik Mass. Sharad Purnima is coming and the full month of Kartik Mass is coming. So it will be great and very wonderful to take some wonderful vows in the month of Kartik and making our devotion, love and devotion grow more and more towards the Lord Radha Damodar and offering, uh, you know, sacrificing our um, energy to give law to give the Lord more pleasure. That should be our attitude in the month of in the month of the Kartik. You know, you know, not wasting our time on unnecessary things, rather than utilizing each and every moment to come closer to the Lord by taking shelter of the Lord, by chanting extra rounds, reading extra, reading every day, diving deeper in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam, and then hearing about the Lord and His pastimes. Every day it should be like a big festival for us in the month of Kartik. So one should be like preparing his consciousness, start preparing his consciousness. Because Kartik month has also very wonderful days, very wonderful occasions where we can dive deeper and deeper in our, thinking about the Lord and his activities and his pastimes. We can dive more and more deeper actually. So one should be careful about what inputs he's giving to the mind, what inputs he's giving to the body, mind, and you know to the soul. So that he gets more and more. His love and devotion increases more and more in this month of Kartik. So which is starting like couple of days from now. Sharad Purnima is coming, so one should be eager to dive deeper in this subject matter also. You know, uh, and read more about Krishna. Devotees take wonderful vows in the month of Kartik, like every day getting up early in the morning, taking cold water bath, or taking bath and then chanting their rounds in the morning, reading Bhagavatam, reading reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, or reading at least one, take a book of Srila Prabhupada and complete that book. Like you can read Krishna book, you can read Nectar of Devotion, complete that book, or like, you can take Bhagavatam one canto and then complete that thing. So that should be like something we should take a vow to complete something like that. And it's always recommended to chant extra rounds. Devotees chant 64 rounds. If we are able to do that, that's the best thing. If not, then at least take a minimum amount of at least minimum 25 to 32 rounds one can easily chant, you know and then definitely one can hearing also can be a regular thing what can be considered. And then other thing is sacrificing little bit, just for the pleasure of Lord Damodar, we should sacrifice what is something very dear to us. So if we are ready to do that thing, that sacrifice, then it will be one of the greatest things to please Lord Damodar. And since the month is very dear to Lord Krishna, and whatever sacrifices we do, or whatever things, whatever spiritual activities we do, it's very, it gives great amount of pleasure to the Lord. And Lord bestows great amount of blessings and mercy on that personality, on that person who is trying to worship this month, and especially offering the lamp, ghee lamp. One should not miss even a single day to offer a ghee lamp to the Lord. And that's like so much recommended in the scriptures. So many scriptures have glorified just offering a ghee lamp to the Lord can make one come out of all the sinful activities one has committed in millions of lives. So, and that too in the month of Kartik, you know, that's like so auspicious, so auspicious. So one should not miss, and one should keep worshipping, keep collecting the Sukruti, and make his life more and more sublime, make his life more meaningful, make his bhakti grow. And that's way we can attract the mercy of the Lord and mercy of all the devotees. Okay, now coming to the chapter of this fifth chapter. Before we start the fifth chapter, I just wanted to read a little bit about from this book of you know Gita Life by SB Keshav Maharaj. It's a very wonderful book, where last time also we discussed about the third chapter. Third chapter was the acronym tree, and now this chapter, the acronym is step. Very wonderfully, Maharaj tells about how the journey of every human being is, the human being is in step towards the understanding. It's a step to understand the Supreme Lord. He writes, right, that Mark Twain famously commented, "We are not human beings on spiritual journey, but rather we are spiritual beings on human journey." Every journey starts with a step, and in this chapter, the fifth chapter, we are taking the step towards the right direction. These are the steps leading to further entanglement in the worldly difficulties, but they are also steps leading to the liberation, freedom, and spiritual tranquility. That choice is ours. So, what is your choice? What steps you are taking can be decided when you go through the fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So, fifth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he gives the acronym STEP. STEP stands for stay in the world. With this first 1 to 12 verses, the word he uses, the acronym starts with S, and the S is stay in the world. Arjuna is still confused, and then still he's asking questions. We'll see when we start discussing more about Arjuna's confusion, what led to these chapters. Um, uh, the led to this chapter where Krishna is describing about karma yoga in action. So we'll be discussing more about his confusions during that time. And then, step the T stands for the three doers. Who are the three doers? This is the Krishna is the supreme, the super soul is there, the soul is there, and the material nature. So these are the three doers which Krishna explains here. And then uh, this is like the few verses from 13 to 16 verses. And then the equal vision of the person, equal vision, having the equal vision of seeing everyone properly with an equal vision, not just male and female. There is always this understanding that We have to have a equal vision towards every living entity. So it's just not like different living entities, but with all different species also, animals, human beings, tigers, everyone has, we have to have an equal vision. And how do we have equal vision? Equal vision is given when we see that the soul is present in everyone, rather than just seeing the external bodily features of a person. We see more deeper, what is there is that soul is present in everyone's heart. Everyone has a soul, and then everyone is connected to the super soul. So that is something like to have that equal vision, Pandita Samadarshana, that is there. And then last, finally, we have the peace formula, where this chapter is known for, this how one can bring peace to the liberation, peace formula to attain to the platform of liberation. That is very nicely explained in the last verse. So this we will be discussing. You know, last time I could not complete the chapter, but this time I'm really wanting to complete my chapter so that there's no nothing left. So when we come to the chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, it's like very wonderfully explaining why Krishna, Arjuna is getting this doubt that he has to. He's asking this question to Arjuna, to Krishna. You know, in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 4.41, Krishna uses the word sannyasa, renunciation. And then later, he uses the word karma also together. And sannyasa and karma doesn't go together. Like action and renunciation doesn't go together, which makes Arjuna a little bit confused that what he should do. And then Krishna is asking in the 42nd verse that, please fight, rise and fight. And that is more bewildering. So it's like, Arjuna is confused with this thing that, whether I should fight or whether I should renounce everything. You tell me to do one thing, but now you are asking me to do the third thing. Like, there is, he's like, but he's more or less like little bewildered. Like Krishna introduces the third category, that is renunciation in work. That was like still more bewildering to Arjuna, that, how should I renounce working in the mode of renunciation? Well, yeah, I can work or I can renounce everything. But now you're asking me to renounce, work in renunciation. So it's like a simple example. If we understand someone who is just knowing two colors, that is red and blue, but then, immediately the person is asked that, there is a violet color also. And how is that violet color? That is the combination of this red and blue color brings together a violet color. So violet color is arising from that two colors. So he's a bit more confused, the person who just sees red and blue color. The same thing was applied to Arjuna also, because he was coming from, he was just considering of renouncing everything, give up the battlefield, and then renounce everything, and then come, take sannyas, or, or to act and fight. So, but, to act and fight in the mode of renunciation, that is something which Krishna is introducing here. And then that is yoga sannyasa karmanam. That is what actually is, Arjuna is been a little bit bewildered with. And then he's asking the first question there only in the first verse that, sannyasa karmanam Krishna punar yogascha samshayi. So he's asking that, please allow me to have, you asked me to renounce work, and then again you recommend me to work with devotion. Now you kindly explain which one of the two is beneficial. Sannyasa karmanam Krishna. Which one which is beneficial? So, Krishna clarifies in the next verse, telling that how sannyasa karma yogascha nirahasyasya karva ubho. And then Krishna is telling karma, he's just asking Arjuna that, you don't just renounce everything, the renunciation of work in devotion, uh, and both good for liberation. But the two is important, like, both of them has to be done together, but both of them work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. So he's asking that, you should not just renounce, but you should work in the devotion. So this is Like this confirms Krishna is saying both things, karma yoga and karma sannyas both prevent attachment here, and both of them are like good, better than the karma yoga. Why it is better? Because that is easier in one way. Srila Prabhupada writes also very nicely when it comes to sannyas, karma sannyas, and he explains about this verse from fifth chapter, fifth canto of this the teachings of Rishabh there, where he speaks about Nunam Pramarta Kurute Vikarma Yat Indriya Priti Apranoti Na Sadhu Manya Yata Atmanoham Asan Api Klesha Ashesha Deha. He goes on explaining with great amount of consideration that how this Nunam Pramarta people are so mad after sense gratification in this material world, and that they are attached to enjoying in this material world. So one, if one continues to live that way, then what will happen is they get bounded by these karmic reactions. So this is what Prabhupada explains very nicely in the fifth canto, and he brings up to the point where how one can come to the point of deha yogena. Soul has to be bounded by all these bodies, and that this he has to give up everything until one develops affection for the Lord and one develops devotion towards the Lord. So the gyan, the renunciation has to come, and that he further describes, Prabhupada describes that there are like falgu renunciation and there is yukta vairagya. Prabhupada writes very clearly there that these two things have to be considered: Falgu Vairagya and then Yukta Vairagya. We understand this Falgu Vairagya. When we read about this story of Haridas Thakur, when he was dancing around, when the Brahmana, no, when the snake charmer was playing his tune. He was playing his instrument, and then Haridas Thakur, remembering Krishna, he was dancing very nicely, and the snake charmer was playing more wonderfully. And then it was like such a wonderful thing that all the people gathered around, and they were seeing both of them dancing in the market street very nicely. And then immediately after Haridas Thakur had left, the Brahmana saw from the crowd, and then he thought he can also imitate, and he started doing the same thing without having that complete renunciation or without having that complete understanding. He started imitating that thing. And immediately this snake charmer took his flute and then started beating that Brahmana. So the crowd was stunned that why is he beating this Brahmana? He's also doing the same thing what Haridas Thakur was doing. Haridas Thakur, that snake charmer immediately told that this is like wrong. He's just trying to imitate. He's like Falgu Vairagi. He's like, renouncing the world, or he's trying to come to the stage of acting in devotion without doing anything. And he could understand what realizations Haridas Thakur had, and realizations the Brahmana had. And immediately he curses, or he starts you know challenging Harida, beating that Brahmana. And that's what the explanation he gives. So coming here to this chapter actually Arjuna begins with question: which is better, work in devotion or work in renunciation? And then Lord Krishna explains in detail the process of achieving liberation through the process of Karma Yoga. Now, if we see Karma Yoga, there are like different types of Karma Yoga. This Karma Yoga Krishna explains in Nishkama Karma Yoga. And Nishkama Karma Yoga is equally very good, but it's easier than renouncing the work. It's easier than just renouncing the work and going away from the work, but it's more good than just working. And what is Nishkama Karma Yoga? Nishkama Karma Yoga is performing activity knowledge with detachment of the fruits to the work. That is what Krishna explains in this chapter. That we should perform our activity in knowledge, in complete knowledge. Whatever we are doing, we should be in proper knowledge, and then without having attachment or being detached from the fruits of the work. That is Nishkama Karma Yoga, and that is what Krishna tells, that one should do this thing. And then Krishna starts explaining further, that the platform of knowledge is, if the platform of knowledge is that one, knowing that there are three doers. this is where, he comes in this chapter. Niskama karma is equal but easier than renouncing the world. These are like the first 6 verses of this chapter, where it is very nicely explained. And the performance of the Niskama karma means one has to work, at the same time one has to be detached from the result of the fruitive activities. And the platform of, and then further Krishna explains very nicely. Krishna explains about the platform of knowledge, how there are 3 types of doers. What are the 3 types of doers? The soul, the material nature, and the super soul. So when we go further in our discussions, Nishkama Karma Yoga is explained here. Prabhupada writes very beautiful purpose also. When it comes to renunciation and renunciation of work and work in devotion, both are good for liberation. This is like from the second verse. Both are good for liberation, but devotional service is rather better than renunciation. And Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, writes completely about this Falgu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya. That purport actually is very beautiful and very good to read also. How Yukta Vairagya means everything has to be used in the Lord service. If everything is not used in Lord service, then what happens is it is just binding us. It's just we are getting attached to those things, and we start claiming to be the proprietor of those things. So this Yukta Vairagya principle has to be applied very carefully, and it has to be applied to all the things what are there. So it's like very very important. Like you know, um, if one is a grahastha, and then he has so many things around him, and he is not able to use many things in the Lord service, then those things are getting, and still you are attached to those things, then you are like not applying the principle of Yukta Vairagya. You are completely attached to those things in one way. So one has to be very careful how one utilizes utilizes the things around, and use them in the Lord service. So this apply to everyone. It's not just for the grahasthas, but for everyone also. How one utilizes everything in the Lord service. He has to be very careful. Like Prabhupada gives the example of microphone. We use this microphone to propagate Krishna conscious activity. Same way for each and everything, whatever is needed in our life, whatever is needed has to be utilized in the service of the Lord. So one has to have that intelligence to utilize this thing. So it has to be done. And then Falgu Vairagya is there, renouncing things related to the Supreme Lord, thinking them to material without the desire for liberation. So these are like few definitions of Yukta Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya, because this is like one thing which comes as a main theme in the initial verses of this 5th chapter, where Falgu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya are properly, one has to have complete understanding of this thing, because this is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed Sri Rupa Goswami Pad and in the Swaswamidagha. Manasaktasya Vishayam in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Yukta Vairagya Ujjate, when one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to the Krishna, one is rightly situated in the above consciousness. This principle is repeated again by Krishna in the 6th chapter also. Yukta harasya vyarasya yukta chetasa akarmashu. In that verse also Krishna is explaining that one who is regulated in the habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work can mitigate all material pains, just because he is following the principles of yoga systems. So these principles have to be considered very nicely, and these principles have to be applied uh, of Yukta Vairagya and Falgu Vairagya very nicely in this connection. So when it comes to true sannyas, how is Krishna conscious person a true sannyasi is? This is in the verse 3, he has perfect transcendental knowledge, and he he understands this because of his transcendental understanding. Transcendental, the result of transcendental knowledge is he's liberated even in the material world because he has a complete transcendental knowledge. And what is that transcendental knowledge? What Lord Krishna is speaking here is that the soul and Krishna are one in quality but different in quantity. And what is imperfect knowledge is? Imperfect knowledge is that one is not uh, oneness in quality quantity with Krishna, because a part can never be equal to Krishna. So this is imperfect knowledge. Like a small drop of water can never be equal to the reservoir of the ocean. So that is imperfect knowledge. But perfect knowledge is soul and Krishna are one in quantity, but there is difference in quality. So this transcendental knowledge is there, which is explained very nicely. And in verse 4 and 5, Krishna explains about the Sankhya Yoga, the aim of mm, the Karma Yoga and Sankhya Yoga are same, since both of them lead to the spiritual realization and have same conclusion. What is that? Real purpose of philosophy is to reach uh, the real purpose of philosophy is to reach and find the ultimate goal of life. And what is the ultimate goal of life? Is understood by Sankhya Yoga when we try to have discrimination between many things and getting attached. Sankhya Yoga is detachment from matter, and then at the same time we have to get attached to Krishna. That is Sankhya Yoga, and then immediately we start serving. The aim of the service is to find uh, start serving the Supreme Lord. This is very nicely explained there. And if we go, about Jnana Marg, there is this dry renunciation is explained there. And what is that dry renunciation? It's very, very difficult and very distressful. Why? Because, why it is very distressful? Because it's like something we are trying to just mental speculate. You're just engaging your mind in mental speculating about Brahman, or you're trying to, get the knowledge just by mental speculation. So uh, this, most of the time Mayavadi philosophers, they do this. Mayavadi sannyasis, they do this Jnana Yoga. They are just trying to engage in the study of Sankhya philosophy and trying to renounce this world and just doing mental speculation. And since their studies are very, very tedious and very tiresome, they take shelter of the Bhagavatam without proper knowledge. And sometimes they fall prey to the material activities. They come down to the social activities like, opening hospitals or, giving the food out and other things like that. So this is explained in the next verse, how this Sankhya Yoga, this Jnana Yoga or dry renunciation is very, very difficult. This is in the verse 6, fifth chapter, verse 6. And then Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga is also explained how this process gives gives liberation, because this is connected to Vash, they are engaged in studying the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So these are things which are very nicely explained, you know, work in devotion and renunciation in work. So next section comes is the performance of Nishkama Karma Yoga. So Nishkama Karma Yoga and working with detachment. A pure soul does not get entangled. Although working, because he fixes his consciousness upon Krishna, he knows that while the body acts, he does nothing. The material senses are simply engaged with the sense objects. And this is what is been explained in like next few verses, explaining about Karma Yoga action in Krishna consciousness. What is this action in Krishna consciousness? The person is acting as a servant of all living entities. He's acting like, watering the tree. Prabhupada gives this example: when you water the tree, you water it to the roots, not to the branches or to the leaves. So when we water the uh, tree, that means we are, engaging our mind and senses completely in the service of Krishna. So that is the action what we are doing. And what action we are doing? Devotees try to engage all their senses in Krishna's service. So this is Karma Yoga in action. That is, we engage all the senses in Krishna's service. And that's how Krishna, a devotee becomes a servant of Krishna and, engages himself completely in Krishna service. And then he gets satisfied and he's satisfied with Krishna. And what happens by this thing? his consciousness becomes very, very pure. And once his consciousness is pure, then pure consciousness leads to the purification of the mind and purification of the senses. And once the mind and senses are purified, then what happens is his mind is fixed on Krishna's service. Hence, there is no chance of deviating from Krishna consciousness. So this science is very nicely explained that once you start engaging your senses, once you start engaging your mind in the service of Krishna, the devotee of Krishna becomes more and more dear to Krishna because he's satisfying him. And as soon as he's satisfying him, he's getting purified more and more. His consciousness is purified. And then once his consciousness is purified, the purified consciousness lead to the fixing of the mind and senses in Krishna's service. So this is what happened. And what is the result? The result is there is no entanglement. So karma yoga, action in Krishna consciousness means there is no entanglement in the work because the desires of the mind, desires of the senses are getting purified because we are engaging in Krishna's service. And this is what Arjuna was thinking, that, this is what the realization that Arjuna was having. That once I engage myself in Krishna's service, I can get purified. So here, if we go further, in the verse 10 also, this has been very nicely explained, that person acting in Nishkama Karma Yoga, what happens to him? His realizations, his actions, and the result. Action is he knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Performing the 10th verse, the theme is performing duty without getting attached and surrendering the result onto the Supreme Lord. Leads one to the leads one to leads one to the unaffected leads one to come out of the sinful activities. Just like Prabhupada gives, Krishna gives his example. Just like a leaf, lotus leaf is there in the water, but it's not touched by the water. It's just above the water. There's no water which is there on the leaf. So that example is given. Lotus leaf is untouched by the water, even though it's there in the water, is not touched by the water. So knowing this, this is something like a person, a devotee is doing this thing, that he knows what he is doing and he is offering everything to the Krishna. Then what happens? He acts without getting attached to the results of whatever he's doing. And with that, there is no desire for the result. And devotee surrenders results to the Supreme Lord, acts in such a way that, this body is that this body belongs to Krishna, that he is the proprietor. I am just the caretaker of this body. I am just the caretaker of all the things around me. I am not the proprietor. And as soon as he has this consciousness that he is the caretaker, not the proprietor, then what happens is he gets the realization that everything belongs to Krishna only. Because he gets this realization that everything belongs to Krishna, everything, he is acting in that mode that everything is belonging to Krishna. I am not the proprietor. I am not the, I am not the, I am not claiming anything which is there around me. We have this principle explained in Isopanishad also. What principle anyone wants to tell? Anyone wants to tell what principle is been spoken here? This is a famous Isopanishad principle, or is what it is based on. Anyone wants to tell? The principle is based on Isopanishad, Ishavasya principle. This Om, no, not Ishavashamidam Sarvam. That everything belongs to Krishna only, and only one who knows perfectly well that he is the proprietor of everything, therefore engages everything in the Lord's service. What is that verse? Om Purnamadam Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamidam Purnameva Vasishyate Ishavashamidam Sarvam Yatkincham Jagatam Jagat Tena Taktena Bhunjita Mam Grida Kissa Siddhanam. So that principle has been explained here very nicely. That is the realization what Krishna conscious person gets, that he is acting in Krishna's Kama Karma Yoga platform. And then as soon as he's acting in Nishkama Karma Yoga platform, he's abandoning all the attachments, what he's happening. This is explained in the verse 11, where his mind and intelligence and his senses are engaged in Lord's service, and they are getting purified. So that is very nicely explained also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, that anyone who is acting by engaging his mind, engaging his actions, and engaging his words in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is certainly liberated from liberated soul, even though he may appear to be conditioned by the material existence. So he may be appearing like that, but he is above the material nature because he is performing Nishkama Karma Yoga. He is performing, a person is acting with the right intelligence of taking care of everything, not as a proprietor, but as a caretaker. So next, actually, Krishna takes the theme from the platform of knowledge. The platform of knowledge is that he's not, he doesn't get entangled. There he speaks about this very wonderful theme, that who are the three doers of any action. So the living being who knows all about the bodily attachments, activities, automatically carried out three modes of material nature. And after that, the super soul doesn't get entangled in this knowledge. So this is very nicely explained that the soul resides in the nine gates when he controls his nature and mentally renounces all the actions. So the causes of the soul suffering is that the soul is placed in the body. Yesterday I was discussing with some boys about third chapter, verse number Bhagavad Gita, third chapter, verse number 3.28, where Prabhupada writes a very beautiful line in the purport that the living entity is placed in an awkward position. And what is that awkward position? Is that the soul is residing within the temporary body. The eternal soul is residing in a temporary body. Now this body, which is going to die after some time, this body is going to decompose, which is prone to disease, which is prone to having accidents, which is prone to suffering, is a place where the eternal, permanent, blissful, loving soul, is residing. And that soul is having such an awkward position. Because why it is residing? Because it's residing in the body, which is very, very temporary. So this is the cause of suffering. And Prabhupada writes in this section of the verse number 13, where he tells that the soul is residing in the nine gates, which which is controlled by the nature. And then, Prabhupada writes that because the soul forgets his connection to the superior nature, that is to the Supreme Lord, he identifies with this material world. And because of our identification with this material world, the soul is suffering. The soul is suffering like anything because of his identification with the material world. You know, so by the process of Krishna consciousness, what is a person doing? A person is trying to revive one's original position and come out of this entanglement, come out of this, bewildering situation, and come out of this, you know, this bondage actually, bondage of this nine gates. What are the nine gates? Anyone want to share? What are the nine gates? Explain, of this body. The soul is placed in the city of nine gates. Can anyone guess or tell? Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone wants to give this answer? Soul placed in the city of nine gates. What are the nine gates in our body?
I'm just taking a guess, Prabhuji. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna. Maybe the senses, the mouth, the ears, like
Yeah.
that, eyes,
Correct.
nose,
Correct. Correct. That
something like that.
yes.
Yeah. So we can add to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is like two eyes, two nose, two nostrils, two ears. These are six. And then one is mouth, another is anus, and the genitals. So these are the nine holes which are there actually placed in our body. So out of these 9 holes, we are, the soul is placed in the city of 9 gates. This is what Krishna is explaining. The soul is subjected uh, to these, is there in this city of 9 gates, and the soul is identifying with this body which he is getting. Like if one wears a dress and it just, someone identifies that, we are wearing the dress. We have, like, the people see the dress and then they identify you with that dress. That is not appropriate. The same thing is happening with the soul. The soul is wearing the dress of a human being, and it's getting identified with this thing, and most of the time he's just bewildered that he is not this dress actually, but there's someone else living in this body. So the living entity does not create any activities. This is what is the next, the coming thing, the role of material nature. The living entity does not create any activities, nor induces people to act, nor creates fruitive actions. All are enacted by the material nature. So what are we doing? That is, by the energy of the Lord only, everything is taking place. What are the energies of the Lord? They are superior energy and the inferior energy. Superior energy is the jiva, and the inferior energy is the matter. Both are there, which are very nicely, there, which is there. And what is the cause of the suffering of the soul? Is the soul is in contact with this material nature. Because he is in contact with this inferior nature, what happens is, and that too since time immemorial, it is there. And temporary body is the cause, this body is the cause of so many varieties of activities, because the body, the living entity, is just desiring to do something or the other. And the resultant actions, he has to bear the resultant actions for whatever he is desiring. And out of ignorance, one identifies with these activities and with this body, and suffers the result of these activities throughout this life, or in the next life, or in the coming lives. And he might be, facing the sufferings from the previous lives also. So this is going on because of just the wrong identification. Because of the wrong identification, the soul has to suffer so much actually. And the living entity thinks that he is a master, but he's not the master. Why is not a master? Because as long as he is in the city of 9 gates, the city, the city of 9 gates will definitely perish, because it's a thing which is going to perish eventually. And so this thing is like, he's neither the proprietor nor the controller of the actions and reactions of the body. He may think that he's the controller or he's the proprietor. If you just consider this one thing, that how many things are in our control. There are not many things which we can control. Our body is like so limited actually, that we have control over very limited things, and we think we are the big controllers. But many things are not in our control. Small misalignment in our body with one nerve also can cause great havoc. Or one, air goes, here and there, air bubble can go and just, block a nerve. We get like so many things in our body, and we think we are the controller of the body. We are the enjoyer of this body. It cannot be like that. Actually, because, we can just understand how these waves of material ocean are just tossing the living entity because of the results what he is doing. And this is like such a deadly thing actually for a living entity. Somehow it never understands that he is tossed by the material nature. And then Krishna tells what is the best solution is, that, one should come out of this water by having transcendental knowledge of Krishna consciousness. So, what is the role of super soul is explained in the verse 15, that one he is in knowledge to seize the material nature as being under the Lord's control, and thus Lord as the ultimate performer and the cause of all actions. Paramatma is the witnesser and the permitter, but he's never, he sees that the living entity is desiring. Prabhupada gives this analogy from many Upanishads also, that, the Lord is sitting, like the two birds are sitting on the same branch. One bird is enjoying the fruits of the tree, and the other bird is just witnessing. He's just witnessing the bird, witnessing the other bird, what he's doing. The super soul is there to witness all the activities what the living entity is doing. So there is Anu and Vibhu. Anu is atomic. Atomic is like, the soul is atomic, and he's prone to the ignorance because of the limited power. Although the soul is full of knowledge, and bliss, but because of misidentification, he's prone to the ignorance actually. And because he's desiring, his desire is the subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The desire, the only problem with the living entity is, or with the soul is, that he desires. He desires wrong things actually. The moment he desires wrong things, he's subjected to so much of suffering. The moment he starts desiring the right things, he come out of the subjected of suffering, and he can go to the path of liberation, or to the path of attaining the Supreme Lord. So the living entity desires, and because of just desiring, what happens is the condition, he gets conditioned in this life, and he sticks to the cycle of birth and death because of the ignorance, cycle of reactions, actions, birth, death, old age, disease, everything is just there because of the desire. So, and the moment we give up this desire, and we claim that the Lord is the responsible for our conditioned state, the living entity, because of the ignorance, claims that the Lord is responsible. But how is Lord responsible? The living entity is desiring. That's why he is responsible, not the Lord. The Lord is just always witnessing. He's always satisfied in himself. The Lord is Vibhu. Vibhu is like he's full of six opulences, and is fully satisfied with himself, undisturbed by the sinful or pious activities of the living entity, and always waiting for the living entity that when he will turn towards me. So he does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but he sanctions whatever the living entity desires. So that is the role of Paramatma. So this is like the two doers, the living entity is desiring, the super soul is witnessing and sanctioning, and the material nature is fulfilling all the activities what the living entity is doing. So knowing the relationship between the super soul, and the material nature, it allows one to be detached from the fruits of our actions. So the living entity, as soon as he knows that he is in the last layer of nuisance, he understands that to think of oneself as the Supreme Lord, to think of oneself as the controller, this is like the wrong category, wrong understanding what a living entity has. And if one has proper knowledge about the transcendental knowledge, then what happens is he comes out of this, he gives up the result of his fruits and gets detached from these fruits. So what is the relationship between the super soul and the material nature? We'll just go in a very small span and then come to the last theme of our talk, that the soul desires, and Lord does not interfere with that desire. So the Lord and the super soul, the soul and the super soul, the soul desires, but Lord never interferes. Lord as super soul sanctions those desires that the soul deserves. That is also very important thing, that we may desire to become a millionaire, but unless we deserve, it's not sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. So that has to be there, that we have to deserve also. So the Lord is not the dictator, Lord is the director of the choreography, who causes activities to be done to the material nature. He tells the material nature that you should act, but only when the soul deserves it. And what happens now to the modes of nature? Modes of nature carry out the action to fulfill the desires of the body, desires of the body and action. As choreographed by the Supreme Lord, or as directed by the Supreme Lord. And who is responsible now? The super soul is responsible, or the material nature is responsible, or the living entity? Who is responsible here? Hare Krishna, dear devotees, who is responsible here?
For what, Prabhuji?
Who is responsible here? The
For
super
what?
soul, the super soul is responsible for any actions or the results what a person is getting, or the soul is responsible, or the material nature is responsible?
The karma.
Karma. No, it's not the karma.
Prabhuji, I think that is the material is responsible for that one. Super soul is not responsible. Soul may be responsible, or that is the material what is responsible.
Material nature is responsible. You're telling no, it's not the material nature. It's the soul which is responsible, because soul is desiring to do these things. The soul is responsible. A living entity, when he desires to do something, then he is responsible. So super soul is the ultimate controller of the activities, but not the initiator. Neither he is the direct. He's not the one who is pushing, but he's just giving the direction to the material nature as an agent. Because material nature is the agent of the supreme lord. So that is acting under the direction of the super soul. But who is responsible is living entity is responsible for his good and bad actions, because he is desiring to do those things. Super soul is not responsible for all the actions, because he is not the initiator. He is not the one who is desiring. The living entity is desiring. This is very wonderful. It is very important to understand for us that the living entity is one who is responsible for the actions what he's doing actually. So benefits, of understanding this position makes us very clear that what is the benefit, or what is the position of the supreme lord can be very nicely understood. It leads one to the proper knowledge, then we can surrender to the supreme lord. So it's very important that when we speak about that who is responsible for our action, if something bad happens, भगवान तूने मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों किया, हम बोलते हैं. कुछ अच्छा होता है तो हम बोलते हैं क्या भगवान को, क्यों इतना अच्छा हो रहा है मेरे साथ, नहीं बोलते. That is something which is so wrong actually. Both things we are only responsible. बुरा भी हो रहा है तो हम ही responsible है. We are only responsible. And if something good is happening also, we are only responsible. Why? Because we are the person who are desiring to do that thing. We are the person who is getting the reaction of that, to do the right thing or to do the wrong thing.
Yeah,
So
but Prabhuji, but we, like Duryodhan said that even if he doesn't want to do, he knows what is right and wrong, but he cannot help it, right?
yeah,
So then that is his prarabdha or whatever
no,
sanskars, what you're
yeah,
born with.
yes. Sometimes the previous conditionings are there, which are very very strong. So which are making us, those are the reactions of our previous acts. What is making us suffer at this moment. So if one is responsible, if one understands that we are responsible, we are just suffering, we are just going through the reactions of the previous past activities, then we can understand that we are only responsible. The super soul is not responsible, the material nature is not responsible. So that is what is very important theme to be understood here in these few verses, where Krishna is explaining that who is responsible. So if we understand that thing, that's like very wonderful to uh, come to the right understanding. Is it clear?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank
Mm.
you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So now the next theme, which is very important and very fastly, I think we should be covering this thing, is having the equal vision of understanding. How can one have equal vision? And that is like very wonderfully explained here by Krishna. you know you know Sometimes I find challenging that we have to complete the complete Bhagavad Gita, one chapter in an hour. There are so many beautiful themes where we can discuss so much, and we get stuck up. This concept of discussing this theme also is like so wonderful. When we discuss about who is the one responsible, the super soul, the living entity, or you know or soul, or the material nature. But then, but we have to complete it. Okay, so next is what we can see is the having the equal vision. So we'll recite this verse: Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmani Gavihastini Sunicheva Sapa Cheva Pandita Samadarshana. So this verse describes what is the nature of a learned person. What is the vision of a learned person? The humble sage, by the virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater as same. So this is something like, equal vision has been explained here very nicely. Now the reality of Bhagavad Gita, is spoken here, that how Lord Krishna is the supreme real Paramatma residing in everyone's heart. And what is the consciousness of a Krishna conscious person is he sees, he goes through everyone and sees everyone with an equal vision. And what is this equal vision? Mundane vision is that there is discrimination. He sees different species with different castes, and there is discrimination. Well, this is man, this is woman, this is this is animal, this is caste, this is creed. He's coming from this nation, that nation. So he has that wrong nation, wrong vision. Actually, that is the wrong vision. But what is spiritual vision? What is spoken here in this Gita is having equal vision. And what is that spiritual vision is? Having the vision to see everyone on the spiritual platform. A person who is liberated only with self-realization can see the super soul, that the soul sees everything and everyone equally. And what is that equal vision? That spiritually, everyone is a living entity and everyone is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. That Lord is neutrally present in everyone heart as Paramatma, and He treats as uh, everyone as a friend, regardless of the circumstances the living entity is in. So the bodies are there; they are material, and they are the production. The body is produced because of the contact of the material nature. So it's very clear with this understanding that the body is very temporary. The body is the byproduct of the touch with the material nature. And the moment the soul touches the Supreme Lord, he will get a spiritual body. And when that understanding is there, that the qualitatively the soul and the super soul are similar. Both are Satchit Ananda, and both are residing in the body. And but by the quantity wise, the super soul, the Supreme Lord is vast greater than the super soul. The is vast greater than the soul. So individual soul is only present in the particular body, whereas Paramatma is present in everyone body. That is the equal vision what a living entity, what a person has, that is explained in this verse. So this clear understanding is there. Then what happens is we will have a compassionate nature towards every living entity. When we see that the living entity is suffering in this material world because of his contact with this material nature, then we can develop great amount of compassion. Before that, one should have that spiritual vision. So this vision has been spoken here, which is based on true knowledge. So one who has true knowledge can understand this true vision actually. And then he's not attracted, he's not hatred towards the person, he's not seeing the person externally. And he never gets illusioned by the wrong identification of the bodily identification, depending on this material world, or to the circumstances what the living entity is going through. So example is given here of a Yamnacharya. Yamnacharya, he's like, getting distressful, on seeing that, he's enjoying, the moment he gets an thought of enjoying with this opposite sex, he's just, his, lips, turn into, his lips, he gets the thought of spitting because he sees that he has enjoying tendency, even though he sees that, that the person who is there is a soul. So intelligent person does not take part in sensual pleasure because of this understanding. He understands that the moment he comes in touch with material world or material senses, then that means he's getting entangled. So intelligent person using this knowledge of transcendental knowledge that soul is present, and how can I keep in contact with this material senses or the senses with the sense objects, and he understands that there is a source of misery. So he gives up that thing, and then giving up that thing, he wants to give up those pleasures, because the pleasures are also have a very limited beginning and limited end. As soon as they begin, they end. But the nature of the soul is to be eternal. To be eternal means to be Satchit Ananda. To be eternally, he should be enjoying. But because of the sense pleasure is very, very limited, he wants to give up this pleasure. So this is the nature of the material world. And this is the transcendental knowledge which he develops by understanding this section of Bhagavad Gita, where it has been explained very nicely. Okay, and then finally, when we come, then he engages in highest welfare activities. That is to engage in doing the welfare activities for for reviving the forgetfulness of Krishna, as the Supreme Lord, and not just as the Supreme Lord, but also as the Supreme Proprietor, Enjoyer, and the Well-Wisher. So this is what happens in the last verse, where Krishna explains about the peace formula. There is one more small section about how Krishna speaks about the introduction to Ashtanga Yoga in verse 27 and 28. And then he speaks about the peace formula. What is the peace formula? Peace formula is that, every living entity is connected to the Supreme Lord. Krishna explains about Karma Yoga here, Bhoktaram Yage Tapasam Sarvalokamaeshwaram Suruda Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Rasyati. So the peace formula what Krishna speaks is that Krishna consciousness process gives spiritual experience in the material world. And what is that experience? One has to execute work in terms of material necessities, as long as one is in contact with the matter. However, Krishna consciousness brings one into the spiritual life while one is in the jurisdiction of the matter. So even though a person is engaged in the material activities, being in touch with the matter, being in contact with the matter, but at the same time, what happens is he's uh, he comes out because he's in touch with the Supreme Lord. He's in touch with the Supreme Lord. So the highest devotional practice what a person can do, or highest achievement what a person can do, is practice devotional service, can award a person peace, or else there is no peace in this material world, because he understands there is how there will be peace because of the wrong identification, wrong place where the living entity is situated. It's not possible for him to come out of this thing. So Karma Yoga is explained very nicely here, that the principle is, this Bhaktaram peace formula is very nicely explained, that the Lord is the beneficiary of all the sacrifices and penance, offering everything, whatever we have in as the transcendental service to the Lord. Bhaktanam Yagitapasam, Sarvalokamaishwaram, that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor. He is the proprietor of not just our planet or our, he's the proprietor of all the demigods, all the planets, and no one is greater than him. And everything is whatever is there, that he is the one who is, we are the proprietor and we are just the caretakers, and Suru the Sarva Bhutanam, and he is the benefactor and the well-wisher of all the living entities. How is the benefactor? He is the benefactor because he's desiring the best thing for the living entities. He wants that the living entities attain peace or attain highest liberation, highest perfection by engaging or by getting out of this entanglement in this material world. So this is the complete summary of the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, where we completely described about the 5th chapter. Hare Krishna. We can take a couple of questions or reflections if devotees have, or else we can end here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for this wonderful class, and so many new points have come up. So my question is, Prabhuji, that we need to, since we are householders, we need to, we cannot, we have to just be involved in activities for pleasing the Lord, and uh, doing all our sadhana, and that will help us to get away from the material world automatically, right?
Yes.
And that is the only way
Yes.
for us.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
We have to engage ourselves so nicely in the service of the Lord that there should not be a time which we are wasting. See, you may be a grahastha, or you may be a brahmachari or a sannyasi or a vanaprastha. That doesn't matter. What is the level of consciousness you are developing? What is the level of bhakti you are developing? That is more important. How you are getting detached from this material world in spite of being in this material world, that is very important. That is what is explained here nicely in the Bhagavad Gita. That you should do activities in this material world, but not get attached to the activities of this material world. Yeah, you should go and give the exam, but at the same time, you should not be so attached to the result that you should be just hankering. "Bhole, when is my result coming? When is my result coming? What am I getting? First rank, second rank, or first division only. If you get second division, you should not be start crying, or should not be Like people, so many IIT students, they end up their lives, because they got second in the rank. So many of them students have done that thing. They are like so foolishly attached to the result of their activities. And sometimes we are attached to the result of our activities when we are attached to the earnings what we get. Sometimes, because of our some mistakes or here and there, we lose money, and then we are so fanatic about that thing that we should somehow or the other get that thing. So one should not be like, so fanatic also that, he should be attached to the results. He should utilize the result in serving the Lord. That is very important. When you get anything, you should try to offer it to the Lord and then utilize it very nicely in the service of the Lord. So that is what is being taught here. And we should definitely develop our love and devotion by performing our Krishna conscious activities as thoroughly as possible, as wonderfully as possible. So that is recommended. Yes, Hare Krishna.
And that is higher than the people who go to the caves and just do sadhana. Is
Yes,
it right?
yes, that is perfectly. That is
Because that is giving up the world in a way.
Yeah, that is not at all recommended in Gita that one should renounce everything and give up everything. But one should definitely try to live in this world at the same time.
Yes, Prabhuji.
That is highly recommended that one should definitely, be in this world. But the most, if you consider, the in case of brahmacharis, they also give up the family attachment and then come and join the movement. So they are coming and joining and serving the movement. They're not going away from the material world, but they are in the material world trying to please and propagate the Krishna consciousness movement. So they are in one way, they are also not running away, but they are, helping Srila Prabhupada to expand the movement. So both ways, it's like a wonderful service to the Lord. And whatever services we are doing, we should do it with this consciousness that the Lord is the enjoyer, the Lord is the proprietor. We are just the servants actually. We are here to serve everyone. So that consciousness is there, then it will be very nice. Rather than renouncing and going away from this material world, that is not at all recommended. Any situation you are there that you want to renounce, बोले बस हो गया छुटकारा चाहिए बोलते हैं हमने को ये जीवन से that is not the solution actually. We have to live in this world, but how to live in this world and not get attached, that is very important. That's something we have to develop. We have to have that consciousness of developing this.
So one reason behind this is also because the duties that Lord has given us, we have to fulfill them to the highest degree, right? That's why we have been placed in the position wherever we've been placed by the Lord. So we must do that in the best possible way, and that's why we should not renounce. That's another way of looking at it, Prabhuji.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it?
correct. That is there. See, Lord has given us a post and position also. So that doesn't mean that, we renounce that thing, but we are responsible. At the same time, we do it in a very Krishna conscious way. Anything we do, we are always remembering the Lord. Anything we do, we are not attached to the result what we are doing. Rather than we are doing it for pleasing the Lord, pleasing the devotees. That is to be considered like the main thing.
So, but I heard that Prabhupada also said that in Iskcon that we should that all the swamis they don't necessarily have to be they could get married. I mean, they could lead a household life and yet, right?
Sorry.
He, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm right, but Prabhupada said that uh, like all the monks can be they it's fine for them to get married.
No, it's not like that. Brahmacharis can be brahmacharis, unless and until they are not able to control their senses, then they can get married. So,
Oh, so what did
no,
he what did Prabhupada say? What did he give higher importance to? And be brahmacharis or householders?
it's not like which is higher or which is secondary. It's always like whatever state you can serve the best, that state you can be in. So if you can serve Srila Prabhupada by being a brahmachari, you can be a brahmachari and serve. If you can be a grahastha and you can serve the movement very nicely, then you can serve as a grahastha also. We have so many ideal grahasthas who are leading such wonderful example by being more renounced than the brahmacharis also. They get up early in the morning. See, the more important thing is what is our consciousness. That is very important. Not which one is highest. Highest is what state. Like I'm a brahmachari because this state of consciousness is more perfect for me to practice. I have been practicing for past 15 years, 10, 12 years, 13 years now. So and I'm very happy to be as a brahmachari and practice my Krishna consciousness very nicely. If you are happy to be as a grahastha and practice very nicely by developing your love and devotion towards the Lord, then that's very highly important that you in that situation, and then practice your devotional life very nicely. So there is no higher or lower thing. There is no this thing, but there is always this thing ki, what you are doing. What is your consciousness actually, how you are improving your services, how you are improving your how you are contributing your services to the society, how you are contributing your services to
No, that is true. There are some better householders than the Swamis also. I know that.
Yes.
But what did Prabhupada recommend, Prabhuji?
Yeah, recommended that brahmacharis can be brahmacharis, grasthas can be grasthas.
But I see a lot of Swamis who are married.
See, that is the thing that when they don't find when what happens is when they are not able to control the senses, or when they are they are attacked by Maya and they are not protecting themselves properly, then they get then they get married actually eventually, because they're not able to guard their senses or engage their senses properly in Krishna consciousness way. Then they get married. So it's an unfortunate situation if it happens that if any sannyasis or brahmacharis are getting married, it's not like so well recommended. But
Yes, Prabhuji, I don't want to say this, but I will over here because I came across one Swami. I mean, it's not good for me to say it, but this is my thought process. Is that married Swami, huh? With his wife was full of wearing diamond jewelry and everything. So I was wondering, they are so much into Maya, and what are they? I mean, as a Swami, you're a leader, right? I mean, yes, but that was only my thought process. Thank you, Prabhuji.
thank you. Hare Krishna. Anything else? I think today we went over time
Hare
also.
Krishna Prabhuji. I had one confusion. Can you
Yes.
just explain like that karma renunciation, that part, and like what is it called? Karma sannyas? I didn't understand, Prabhuji. Maybe I
Yeah.
have the same confusion like Arjuna, and I got the Nishkam Karma that we do our duty and leave the results to Krishna, right, Prabhuji?
Yes.
That is karma yoga, sorry, right? What I said?
Yeah.
earlier?
Karma
Okay.
sannyas means
Yeah.
renouncing the results, like I was telling now, renouncing, not being attached to the results, and utilizing whatever results we have in the service of the Lord. That is
Okay.
karma sannyas.
Can you explain with
So
a
you're working
practical
also, but
example?
you're not attached to the results. That is karma sannyas. Like you're
Okay.
renouncing the results of the activities what you're doing, and
Okay.
you're completely giving up for the giving the results to the Supreme.
So we just focus on our duty basically
Yes.
and not
Yes.
be concerned with the results.
Yes. Not be concerned with the results.
Okay. So that would be karma
Yes.
sannyas.
Karma sannyas. Like you're
Okay.
performing, as a mother, you perform your responsible
Right.
thing, that you make a child grow. But
Mm-hmm.
the result of that thing is sometimes the child is very notorious, or sometimes the child is very obedient. So you are not attached to what the child is doing, but at the same time, I'm just giving an example,
Right.
that we are not attached to the results, but as a mother, you are very loving and very caring and very gentle, and you're taking care of the child. So you never give up the results, you never give up the activity what you're doing. So, that is karma sannyas, that you don't give up the activity, but at the same time you are not attached to the results also.
Okay. So I think there's one verse where Krishna says, do not be attached to not doing your work. I think that's what
Yes.
you're trying to say. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Nanvat
Thank
pranam,
you.
Prabhuji.
Dhanavad.
It was helpful. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. I think we should end here now.
So, Prabhuji, the Kartik Mass, the lamp should be lit in the evening, right?
It can be lit in the morning also. There is no problem. Whenever you have time, you can do it. early in the morning during the Brahma Muhurta time. That is the best time recommended in the Shastras also. So if you can do during that time also, that is the best thing. If not, you can do it in the evening also, you can do it in the morning also.
Yes. So it's starting from the 7th.
Huh?
When is it starting, the Kartik month?
This starting on 7th.
Yes.
7th, right? 7th is the Sharad Purnima.
Thank
Tuesday
you.
onwards.
Tuesday. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarupasya kripa sindhu bhayavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrand ki jai.
Jai.
Das Thakur ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada
Bhagavatam
ki
ki jai,
Ki
Shri
Jai.
Gopal ki jai.
with God
Hare
Bhagavad
Krishna,
Gita ki
Prabhuji,
jai.
His Grace, Shri Gopal Pran Prabhu ki jai.
Ki
Thank you
jai.
very much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class, summary of 5th chapter. Hare Krishna.
Right. This time I
Hare
will complete the
Krishna.
complete chapter. Last time there was like couple of themes which were left.
Yes,
But
yes,
fortunately we completed this time 5th chapter.
yes. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hari
Hare
Bol.
Bol. Hare
Hari
Bol.
Bol.